Welcome, everybody, to our deep dive. And today we're diving into the world of zombies.
Ooh, zombies.
And I say this every time,
Yeah.
but we're going a little beyond just, the flesh eating, the typical zombie tropes.
The tropes.
We're going to really look into how these myths actually kind of reflect our anxieties. And we're going to explore some real science that actually makes zombies a little more than just fantasy, right?
Right.
I mean, did you know that zombie myths are actually found in cultures all over the world? It's not just a Haitian thing.
That's right. It's fascinating.
And what does a pufferfish have in common with a zombie?
Ooh.
We're going to find out.
I love it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's really interesting how each culture's zombie myth kind of reflects their own unique fears, right? So for example, in Haitian voodoo,
right.
the zombie, it wasn't really about flesh eating.
Right.
It was all about this spiritual enslavement.
By a bokor, like a sorcerer.
Right. Like somebody who has this spiritual power over you.
Exactly. And that taps into this primal fear of losing your free will.
Yeah, it's like a cautionary tale. Almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like be careful who you trust.
Yeah.
And be careful of unchecked power.
Exactly.
But it's interesting how George A. Romero with Night of the Living Dead really shifted that whole zombie narrative, right?
He did, yeah.
Gave us those flesh-eating ghouls that we're kind of used to now. And his zombies were kind of, they became this metaphor for societal collapse.
Oh, for sure.
Like the loss of order, and it was a reflection of the anxieties of the time,
Yeah, his zombies were really
like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, a product of their time for sure.
And Romero, he wasn't just playing around with horror, tropes.
Right.
He was using those zombies to actually critique consumerism.
Yes.
And conformity. Especially in Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, it's set in a shopping mall.
Oh, such a good one.
You remember that iconic scene where they're all just mindlessly shambling through the mall?
I do.
Drawn to those consumer goods, just like they were before they turned,
Like nothing changed.
And it's just this chilling commentary on how we can just kind of become slaves to our desires.
Precisely, yeah. And that's what's so compelling about zombies, right?
Yeah.
Like this lens through which we can examine our own society and its potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
Totally.
So zombies, they've really, they've permeated pop culture.
For sure.
We got iconic films like 28 Days Later with those really fast rage-infected zombies that really kind of reflected our fear of pandemics. We got video games like Resident Evil, that actually let you experience the
thrill and the terror of survival firsthand. But could there be any scientific basis for zombification?
Well, a reanimated corpse, that's pure fiction.
Okay.
But there are some real world phenomena that kind of offer a glimpse into how certain aspects of it could theoretically be possible.
Okay.
So take the pufferfish, for example.
Okay.
Its neurotoxin can actually induce a death-like state.
Oh, wow.
Making the victim, appear lifeless until the toxin wears off.
So it's like a temporary zombie.
It's like a temporary zombie state.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it highlights how brain function can be drastically altered, leading to a loss of consciousness, and motor control. Mimicking some of those characteristics of the undead.
Oh, that's pretty freaky.
Yeah, it is.
Are there other examples of that kind of biological manipulation?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The cordyceps fungus
is a prime example.
Okay.
It infects ants. And it takes over their nervous system.
Oh, wow.
And forces them to spread the fungus to other ants.
Oh, geez.
It's a real-life example of an organism hijacking another's behavior for its own survival.
So it's not even just mind control.
Yeah.
It's turning that ant into a vehicle.
It's a vehicle, yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It is.
It's terrifyingly efficient.
It is terrifyingly efficient.
Man.
And it raises these fascinating questions about the nature of free will and the potential for external forces to manipulate our actions.
Oh, wow. So you're saying
it may sound far-fetched.
Okay.
But could a synthetic virus or advanced nanotechnology theoretically hijack human behavior in a similar way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still in the realm of science fiction.
Right.
But it's not entirely implausible.
Right.
You know?
Okay. You've officially blown my mind.
Good.
But what about human diseases?
Oh, yeah.
Are there any that have like zombie-like symptoms?
Well, rabies and mad cow disease, I mean, they don't create zombies in the classic sense,
Right.
but they do exhibit some eerily similar symptoms.
Right.
Regression, disorientation,
Right.
even loss of coordination.
Right.
They demonstrate how diseases can profoundly affect the brain,
Right.
leading to behavioral changes that could be perceived as zombie-like, you know?
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
yeah, it's remarkable, like, how our fascination with zombies, it's like intertwined with our like very real fears about disease and the potential for losing control, you know, like both physically and mentally.
And that ties into like why are we so captivated by these creatures?
Right.
Like, why are zombies such a persistent figure in our like collective imagination?
Well, one theory is that they represent our primal fear of death and the unknown.
Yeah.
They embody like the decay and the loss of self that we instinctively dread.
Right.
But zombies also, they tap into our survival instincts, you know?
Yeah, it's like those zombie survival guides, you know, that people create just for fun, right? They're not just about zombies.
Right.
It's about being prepared for any disaster, you know?
Exactly.
Like thinking through those what if scenarios.
It is. It's like the CDC even used zombies to promote emergency preparedness.
Oh, wow.
It's like this fun, engaging way to get people thinking about like what they would do in a real crisis, you know?
So prepping for a zombie apocalypse,
yeah,
isn't that different from prepping for like an earthquake or a pandemic?
Not really.
I mean, you need food, water, shelter, a plan, and maybe a good machete, right?
And maybe a good machete, you know? But it's all about, like, resourcefulness and adaptability. Like, you know, being able to think on your feet, you know? Like, remember in a zombie apocalypse, everyday objects can become valuable tools.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Just like in those zombie movies.
Yeah.
You know, the lone wolf rarely survive.
Right.
It's those groups that work together, support each other, share their skills. They have the best chance of making it.
It's that community and collaboration that becomes like essential for survival. And even beyond like fictional scenarios, you know?
Yeah.
Like building strong connections with your neighbors, your community, your loved ones. It makes us more resilient in the face of any challenge.
Yeah, so maybe the real takeaway from all this zombie talk, isn't about fighting off the undead.
Right.
But it's about living a more meaningful, connected, and resilient life.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Zombies may be creatures of horror, but they can also inspire us to be better, stronger, and more connected to the world around us.
It's interesting, like how zombies, how they can reflect societal anxieties, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like remember Dawn of the Dead, right? Yeah. That was a critique of consumerism.
Totally.
You know, 28 days later, like that tapped into those fears of pandemics and isolation with those like fast-moving, rage-infected zombies, right? Yeah. Like that's how fast a virus can spread.
Right, exactly.
And the loss of individuality is another like
it's a big one.
Recurring theme, right?
Oh yeah.
Zombies, they're often depicted as this mindless, homogenous mass, right? Like they're stripped of their unique identities.
Right.
And that's kind of a scary thought, right?
That is a scary thought.
Like losing our sense of self and just becoming another face in the horde.
Totally, yeah.
It's like those seas, you know, where they're just like clawing at the windows, like desperate to get in, but they're not individuals anymore. They're just driven by this primal hunger. Yeah. This overwhelming urge to consume.
Exactly. It speaks to our anxieties about conformity, groupthink, and the potential for losing our own unique voices.
Yeah.
You know?
So zombies are more than just mindless monsters, right? They're a reflection of us, our fears, and even our potential for both good and evil.
Exactly. And as our world continues to change, so too will our depictions of zombies, you know? They'll continue to evolve, reflecting our evolving anxieties and fascinations.
Well, before we wrap up this deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of zombies, I have one
Yeah.
last question for you.
Hit me.
What does the enduring popularity of zombies say about our society?
Oh.
And what can we learn from them,
Yeah.
even if
Right.
a real-life outbreak never happens?
That's a great question, and one that deserves careful consideration.
Yeah.
I think the continued fascination with zombies, it speaks to this, like, deep-seated unease about the state of the world, you know?
Right.
Like, we're bombarded with news of pandemics,
Yeah.
climate change,
Yeah.
political instability.
Yeah.
It's no wonder
Right.
we're drawn to these stories that explore these anxieties in a heightened, like, fictional setting, you know?
So zombies are kind of a way of
They are.
processing these very real fears,
Yeah.
but in a safe, controlled environment.
Exactly.
It's like a dress rehearsal
It is.
for the apocalypse without the actual apocalypse.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And while the chances of a real life, zombie outbreak are thankfully slim to none. Yeah. Engaging with these stories can actually be a valuable exercise.
Right.
They force us to think critically about our own preparedness, our values, and how we would react under pressure.
I never thought I'd say this, but maybe there's something to be learned from the undead after all.
Absolutely. Zombies, they teach us about, the fragility of society, the importance of community, and the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
They remind us that even in the face of, like, unimaginable horror,
Right.
there's always hope, always the possibility of survival.
Right.
And even redemption.
It's funny. We've been talking about this hypothetical zombie apocalypse, and I'm realizing that, like, a lot of the skills that you would need to survive are actually pretty useful.
Oh, for sure.
In everyday life.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like knowing how to build a fire or fix a leaky faucet or grow your own food. These are all things that can make you more resilient.
Totally.
No matter what challenges you face.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of community.
Right.
And in a crisis, it's the people around you who can make all the difference.
Just like in those zombie movies. Right?
Exactly.
The lone wolf rarely survives.
Right. Yeah.
It's the groups that work together, they support each other.
It is, yeah.
Share their skills that have the best chance of making it.
And that's a lesson that applies to all of us.
Right.
Zombie apocalypse or not.
Right.
Building strong connections with your neighbors.
Yeah.
Your community.
Yeah.
Your loved ones. That's what gives us strength, resilience, and hope.
Yeah.
No matter what challenges we face.
So maybe the real takeaway from all this zombie talk, isn't about learning how to fight off the undead.
Right.
But it's about how to live a more meaningful, connected, and resilient life.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
Zombies may be creatures of horror, but they can also inspire us to be better, stronger, and more connected to the world around us.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. How can we apply the lessons of the zombie apocalypse to our own lives to build a more resilient, compassionate, and connected world?
It's a question worth asking.
Yeah.
And one that each of us can answer in our own way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of zombies.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected.